Welcome in, Clark County. I'm Rob Anderson with Reform Clark County, and I have a guest in the Reformcast studio today. But before we go there, I'll be talking about Sue Marshall's anti-ICE resolution that was presented to the Clark County Council, the fallout from the Ridgefield District story, which a lot of parents are, reacting to that as they should. And then Charter Review has an update that's been moving along slowly but surely, and we'll take a look at some developments. But before we do that, hit the like button, the share, the subscribe, join, thumbs up. Help get the word out to others so you don't miss any of the new episodes. As we look at what else has happened around the county recently, I have to tell you that the Sue Marshall's anti-ICE resolution came before the council, and she proudly read it, even though it was it was considerably watered down. And so many people, I don't think one person really liked the resolution as written last week. So if the outrage is serious, now some of the Portland-style Antifa organizers were noticeably missing from the meeting, but you would think that there'd still be this considerable amount of outrage. I mean, someone decided to wipe their back end with the resolution, so certainly people were still outraged, right? Right?
I do appreciate this resolution. Commitment to constitutional rights, to the Fourth Amendment, to rejecting racial profiling, and to recognizing racism as a public health crisis.
I'm here because I support the resolution that addresses federal immigration enforcement, and I want to...
somehow magically, many of those who were just so upset and, stomped out and swearing and stooped to really rude antics, this now they were kind of cool and calm and supportive. It makes me wonder what's really going on here. As I said last week, it's not about immigration, though it is right now. Just like it wasn't about Free Palestine, but they said it was at the time. It wasn't about trans rights or BLM or hands up, don't shoot, but it was sold that way because these people use narratives and sincere people, some of them, but some of them not so much. Just like Marx, who used the working class, some now are using this issue of no ICE to get out the vote campaign, really to gin up their voters and maybe suppress the other side. And so really what's going on maybe isn't quite what it appears. So of note, last week, Matt Little was a no vote, but he ended up signing the resolution. So I guess he changed his mind because clearly you could see his signature on it. By the way, Billie Eilish was there to give her 2 cents.
There are no legals on stolen land, and federal law enforcement has no authority here. To understand this, we only need to look at the first 124 years of this U.S. government, which...
Okay. So it wasn't her, but this is just, again, a narrative used by those who want to further the narrative to really undermine the legitimacy of the United States, because it just takes, it's going to take a lot of chops of that tree to bring it down. And this is just one of those chops of against the evil empire. This is just another contribution to try to bring it down, which the neo-Marxists call the empire. That's right. They call America the empire, the evil empire. Now, when I was younger, a man named Ronald Reagan, maybe you've heard of him, called the USSR at the time the evil empire. And it was a communist country, a coalition of communist countries. But now the communists, the neo-Marxists, want you to think that communism is the answer and that United States is the evil empire that must be taken down. My, how things have changed. So let's turn our attention up north once again to the Ridgefield story. Last 2 weeks, I've been rolling out this wild story of the Ridgefield School District who failed to protect the students from a coach that was accused of emotional abuse and including targeting and public shaming, cussing out students, you're effing useless, and other kinds of really terrible things. All these things the district determined did happen. By the way, later on, we see the letter of directive eventually issued to the coach. We kind of don't know when, it's not dated. But the Reflector came out with an article that appears that the editors were trying to maybe do a little damage control for the district with their title. But parents have come out of the woodwork, including details of how teachers are encouraging students to protest. In fact, I've got a report that a teacher was trying to encourage students to do an anti-ICE protest. They didn't want to do it, so they kind of moved them to this issue of, I guess, a couple of vice principals were being reassigned out of Ridgefield High School. And so this teacher encouraged students to develop a protest. And, this is what many in government schools feels is a top priority, to develop activists and future protesters. Hey, I love a good protest. I mean, but I'm not sure that we want teachers to be encouraging students so they can, say it's student-led, to have a better experience becoming an activist for teachers' pet projects, because that's really what's happening here, so teachers are encouraging students to go out there and advocate for other students and to protest on other teachers' behalf. I received another email from a parent who has a special needs student, and they're being pressured to be a part of this protest in support of other teachers. So I guess when you use students, to get big raises, I guess why not use kids to save other teachers or administration officials from perceived, demeaning reassignments. Yes, that's what's happening here. I'm working on several new stories now that have come out of this cheer coach story. So I'm thinking that there's going to be more stories that will probably come your way, and really that there's a real cultural problem at the Ridgefield schools, maybe other government district schools, but where students and parents just really haven't been listened to, that they've been shoved aside to the back of the bus, but sometimes aren't allowed even onto the bus, figuratively speaking. So the last charter review meeting was really the first meeting where the commissioners had a chance to kind of lay out their ideas of potential charter amendments. So before this, it was like bylaws and, all the kind of procedural stuff, watching paint dry to some degree. But now they're actually talking about amendments. And we heard several articulate for, charter amendments, like making public safety a paramount responsibility, something that I advocated and worked hard for, prioritizing it in the Clark County, form of government, balanced budget amendments. So, those things definitely hit the table and it's good. But one commissioner decided to reveal an idea that even shocked me, which isn't easy to do.
Another question that I've been thinking about is this whole clerk discussion brings up the question of, should we be having this discussion about all of the elected executive offices beyond just the clerk? I think the only one that's mandated to be elected is the prosecuting attorney. And so if that's the case, are all of the executive positions, should they be up for having a similar conversation about, do we want it to be professional hiring practices and appointed rather than elected?
So I believe that was Commissioner Holmgren who proposed, and you heard it right, he's proposing to strip county voters from the right to not just the county clerk, but all elected positions. So this would include the sheriff. This would be the assessor, the auditor, all of it. It isn't enough for the Democrats that they have proposed, legislation recently in Olympia that they will be able to, remove elected sheriffs. That's not good enough here. The Democrats want to just go all the way, apparently, in Clark County. They want to take away your ability to vote for the auditor, the assessor, the clerk, even the sheriff, which I think is really the target here is, the defenders of democracy, if so to speak. They really don't like a constitutional sheriff in power. And what is going on at the Fort Vancouver Regional Library? 2 trustees have recently resigned in another packed house at a recent board meeting. So I've asked Gary Wilson to join me in the Reformcast studio, HQ. So welcome in, Gary.
All right. Thank you, Rob. I appreciate the opportunity. Thanks.
Yeah, no problem. So what's going on with this? So from my perspective, I see a couple, and I just haven't been as focused. I know that you have been to, 81 out of so many of the last library.
84.
84. But who's counting? Who's counting? Obviously you are plugged into this, and there's been a couple of resignations. It seems to be based on language of the strategic, plan that they've been working on. And so anyways, why don't you tell us what's all the hubbub about?
Right. It's having to do with the strategic plan. And I guess some of the more conservative-leaning board members didn't want it to be so divisive. I mean, you can argue here or there about the term equity. Some people are in favor of it. Some, if you look at the definition, it looks okay, but sometimes when they implement it, it's
the way it's being applied these days
can be weaponized sometimes to overemphasize some and marginalize others.
No way.
And so they want it to be a little more inclusive. Moreover, for me, the important one is intellectual freedom, where that typically means everything goes for everybody.
Wait, that sounds so good. That sounds such a wonderful phrase, right? Intellectual freedom. But what's really going on there?
Well, when you apply that to children, not everything in the library is really for them, their age group. So there's a lot of adult-themed books in there, and, I don't want to get into any particulars, but they just wanted to put a caveat in there to carve out for children to, make sure that it's either age-appropriate for them or parental approval. So a 6-year-old can't walk into a movie theater and walk into an R-rated movie on their own. They have to be accompanied by a parent or guardian. And similarly, similar content in a library shouldn't be available to children either without parental consent and or, some things, just should not be allowed.
So it's not necessarily about just kind of taking things off the table. It's really more about putting parents in the driver's seat or being able to make those kind of decisions.
Yeah. And, some people fear, that's censorship. No, it's being the adult in the room. When a parent may be busy, they don't know what the child's doing. So someone's got to, like I said, kids just can't walk into a movie theater on their own to things that are inappropriate for them.
So what you're saying is like this intellectual freedom issues maybe being used by some to bring in pretty illicit, what most people commonly would maybe like a 80-20, 90-10 would say, hey, this is not appropriate kind of stuff. And are you saying that the library officials or who's really advocating for this intellectual freedom?
I would say the union, the library union. Most library workers are going to kind of lean that way. They say, well, it's up to the parent to police the child. But no, when, we as taxpayers have a duty to protect children. And same with the board members. They have a fiduciary responsibility to protect children, and that's all we're hoping they will do, and to just have a caveat carved out for the children to protect them. And, going back to, some years ago, they had a drag queen story hour, and, that was something myself and others were alarmed about, and we showed up and shared our heart, and I've actually got almost 5,000 signatures of people asking to the library to protect children. And I brought them. I don't know if you want to see them, but
yeah, I saw them here. Grab them.
There's a stack.
Put them. Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow.
It's over 300 pages. Over, like I said, about almost 5,000
How
signatures.
did you collect those? When was this happening?
It was over a course of a couple of years. I know we had it at the fair, the Clark County Fair. We got over 500 signatures there in a 10-day period. So it was,
I love signatures. I love petitions, because it really, you can do so much and I could only do so much. But when you start getting, 5,000 people who are saying the same thing,
right,
it really amplifies that message.
Sure.
And that's really what it's about. So
it is.
So what is, what drives you, I guess, in this, as you do this, you said 81 out of 84 board meetings, and for sure the public has a say in all this. I mean, we're funding it, for
Sure.
goodness sake. So at minimum, we should be allowed to say something. We should be, involved in giving that input. And I appreciate you doing that. But what I guess what motivates you? Because, sometimes, folks like you or me that show up to meetings, people don't understand maybe what makes us tick. So
Yeah, in the past, when I was working, had a family, had work, had church activities, and just didn't have the time. But after I retired, I was fortunate enough, God blessed. And after I retired, I was happy for a year just doing, what I wanted. And then this Drag Queen Story Hour popped up at our library, and I was just like, okay, God, I always said if I had the time, I'd get involved, and now I have the time, and I felt his leading, and he's confirmed that. My dad actually came to Christ soon after I got involved with this, and it was just, I took it as confirmation that, God said, this is what I want you to do, and I would have been committed to this either way, but that just confirmed it.
Yeah.
And God's opened so many doors. I mean, there's no way I could have done this on my own. To God be the glory. It was his doing, and, we were able to get Drag Queen Story Hour pretty much ended. COVID kind of helped when that came along, but they had 3 Drag Queen Story Hours in 2019. Then when COVID hit in March of 2020, the library was closed for 2 years.
right.
Although we still pay taxes for it.
But that's beside the point.
Yeah, it's besides the point. But
Yeah, no, I appreciate you sharing that because it really brings up, we go to meetings, you go to, library meetings, I go to the county council meetings, you go to the county council meetings sometimes too. And, and there's definitely a spiritual element. There's an element, just what was it? I think late January when you and I were both at the county council meeting, and it was very oppressive. Like I walked in and it hit me almost in the face,
Sure.
and I was really like, whoa. It was unusual for a 1:00 Wednesday meeting. Like it was. So I appreciate the fact that you know that there's a lot more going on here, and it's fascinating to me too. And I'm sure that you've maybe experienced this, that how anti-God or faith, a lot of people on the other side are. I mean, where they'll mock you and they'll, mock your faith and they'll, ridicule. I also am seeing a new phase where people are actually trying to use scripture. That happened this last Tuesday, where someone read off quite a bit of scripture in support of the anti-ICE resolution, which I thought was fascinating. But
Yeah.
but it can be pretty spiritually, a battlefield.
yeah, we are in a spiritual battle, like Ephesians 6:10 through 18. We got to put on the armor every day. And yeah, I've recited those verses, know it by memory. And yeah,
Yeah.
where, God called me to this. I didn't know what I was doing initially, but I just started, I brought to the first library board meeting after the first Drag Queen Story Hour this form, and 40 people or so signed it there. I brought about a dozen people with me. 75 people showed up, and 20 spoke. 20 were against Drag Queen Story, 2 were in favor of it. And Heidi St. John was there. She spoke. Dick Rylander was there. Jennifer Heinwithy. They both spoke. So yeah, it's been it's been a blessing in my life, actually. I mean, it's a lot of work, taking a lot of work. I email 2,500 people every month or so, or when needed. And it's been hard recently to get people to come out, because when you're winning, people don't really get involved. But it's when you're losing, because I've had 200 people come out one time. It was the Slavic Church just in March of 2019. We packed out the entire Three Creeks Library. People were outside, and I brought shirts, and I just wanted to have an impact on the board to be able to see we're organized, we're funded. 50 people in the room had shirts on, Library Strong.
Right.
So.
Yeah, no, and it's something that this, and I know this, but our battle's not against flesh and blood.
Amen.
Like it's not, and that's the difference. Where some of these meetings, you really feel targeted by the other side, and that's okay. But that's not something I do. I know that's not something you do, and it comes really out of our faith of saying that the struggle is not against flesh and blood. However, we are to really combat every pretension that sets itself up against the knowledge of God. Okay. And this is where the church, churches should be like having pastors. And this is, I'm probably getting in trouble for this. Every church should have like a community political engagement pastor that is, maybe doing the kind of work that you do, and doing other things of engagement and stewarding what God has given us. So that's the important part. So what's coming up next in this whole situation? In fact, we haven't really unpacked, we probably should, of Fort Vancouver Regional Library. You mentioned the issues, but there was a couple of resolutions or resignations. One of them was directly related because of this language that wasn't included in it. And then another one was maybe loosely connected to it, but maybe personal reasons. But what's coming next? What's on the horizon that people should be aware of?
Well, there is an open position for Skamania County, so anybody that lives in Skamania County can apply for that position. I'm actually emailing it out to people today. I just started to. It was just posted on the 17th. So, and it doesn't take much time. I mean, it's a one board meeting a month. It's about 2 hours. There, you can get more involved. I mean, they probably want you on one other committee that would meet once a month as well. And you can even attend via Zoom.
So do you have to live in Skamania then?
Yes, you would, because there's 2 representatives, 2 board members from the City of Vancouver. You have to live within the city. 3 from Clark County at large, and they're appointed by the Clark County Council. The city's appointed by the City Council, and 1 for Skamania County and 1 for Klickitat County. Okay,
so an open position. And then what do you think is going to happen do you think that this battle is over when it comes to the war of the words and on the strategic plan? Or do you think maybe some action is afoot?
Yeah, I believe there is action afoot, because people have been coming to the meeting and been emailing about having our 3 Clark County board members removed from the trustee board.
Wait a minute. Are you saying that the Clark County Council, led by Sue Marshall, who interfered with the C-Tran board, that she might actually be looking, because they don't like the outcome of the Fort Vancouver Regional Library vote, that maybe they might stick their thumb and disrupt the makeup of the Fort Vancouver Regional Library board?
I believe it's a possibility, because yesterday's County Council meeting, they had on the agenda a work request to bring in the Fort Vancouver Regional Library District to talk about what's going on with the strategic plan, and how that board meeting, it was, a little, per Sue Marshall, she said it was a little confusing and seemed rushed. And yeah, there were parts of it that were, but it's a different board. They really don't have a say in that board. you know.
Yeah, I don't recall the county council having a supervisory power over the Fort Vancouver Regional Library Board in the sense of like watching everything they do and like, I like that, I don't like that. I mean, they're really just about appointing people, correct?
Correct.
Yeah,
Correct.
yeah. So we'll want to be vigilant on this one.
Yes.
And so what's coming up next specifically? Are there so it's going to be on the agenda again, or they bringing members before the county council? Is that what's happening?
Yeah, and one of the board members addressed it at Tuesday's board meeting, or at the library board meeting, and asked the executive director, I understand you guys are going to be presenting to the Clark County Council, and I guess that was maybe a little premature. I mean, it was just a work request. They hadn't reached out yet, but yesterday...
They're laying the groundwork.
Yes, and yesterday at the Clark County Council, they determined to have the Fort Vancouver Regional Library executive director and or board chair come and meet with them and hear what's going on and maybe take some sort of possible nefarious action.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I appreciate it, Gary. I appreciate you coming in, kind of giving us a little more insight of what's going on there. Because I had some people reach out to me saying, "Hey, can you talk about this?" And I'm like, I just don't know enough to talk about it. So I thought I'd bring you in.
yeah, and there's a good article in the Clark County Today,
Right.
just written yesterday, I believe, Paul Valencia. So he was at both the library board meeting and the county council meeting yesterday. So, and I spoke at the county council meeting yesterday. So just brought my signatures, just telling them, hey, we got, the other side has a petition. I won't say the other side, but there's, I guess I'll put it that way maybe, but they have a petition out to, remove our 3 Clark County board members. So I was just letting them know this isn't an online thing where you can have people from out of state just 2-3 seconds,
Is there's
wipe it
like
in.
an online?
It is an online. Mine isn't. Mine has names, addresses, emails, phone numbers.
Nice.
And, people are committed. And I have a privacy issue with this. People can look at it. They can't take pictures of it. They can't.
Right.
I'm not going to leave it with anyone.
Right.
But keep it under lock and key because every signature in here is important to me. And,
Right, yeah.
I appreciate everyone that had the, fortitude to do this. So,
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you, Gary. I really appreciate it.
yeah. God bless.
Yeah.
Thanks.
So that's Reformcast this week. It takes a lot of effort to bring you these episodes, so please hit the like, the share, subscribe, join buttons, and please support the show by going to my Give, Send, Go account at Reform Clark County so we can expand and bring you more of these episodes. So, my friends, don't forget, you, with God's help, are the catalyst of reform. See you next time.